Yes.
You need to watch the,
Yeah,
those tech people when they will tell you it means time.
Straight ahead of you.
they're good. Something told the wild geese it was time to go. Through the fields lay golden, something whispered snow. Leaves were green and stirring, berries lost their gloss, but beneath the feathers something cautioned frost. Oh, the sagging orchards sing with amber spice, but with wild breast stiffened, yet remembered eyes. Something told the wild geese it was time to fly. Summer sun was on their wing. Winter, winter, winter in their cry.
Good morning. I'm Patty Kelly. I will be your worship associate this morning, and I am thankful on this Thanksgiving weekend that you are here with us. Those sitting in the back, if you would like to move closer and be a nice, small, cozy group, please feel free. But we're very glad that you've joined us today, whether you're watching from cyberspace or you're here in the sanctuary, so welcome. First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati is a community committed to social justice and to supporting the various spiritual and ethical paths of our members and friends. As we strive to build a beloved, inclusive community, we acknowledge that we occupy stolen land that is the ancestral home of the ancient earthwork and mound builders and the Miamia and Shawnee peoples. This is an uncomfortable history that we must recognize as we struggle to live with the implications of that profound injustice. If you would like to know more about our church or about the Unitarian Universalist faith, please contact us by emailing member-care@firstuu.com. For those watching at home, this email address is in the description of today's service on our YouTube page. Our congregation endeavors to be welcoming to all, so you'll see signs of various accommodations posted around the church and also listed in your order of service. And our ushers, of course, would always be happy to answer any questions you might have. Also on your order of service is a form you can complete if you would like to share a joy or concern with the congregation. You can place it in the offering basket as it passes or on the desk at the back of the sanctuary as you leave the service. Today's flowers are from Sherry Ogden Wellington in memory of her dear late husband, Thomas Kevin Ogden. Please note that there is no Sunday school today, although I don't think that's an issue. So if any children do show up in the sanctuary, you can whisper to them that they'll be just staying here instead of going downstairs later. A couple of announcements before we get into our service. First of all, if you're over 55 or thereabouts, please join us on Wednesday morning, this Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. for a coffee clatch in the Ellen Hall room. Just show up and we'll have coffee and treats and we can just chat with our First U friends. And please mark your calendars for the holiday hoopla on Saturday, December 9th from 12:30 to 3:30, not 2:30 as it says in the order of service. This is truly a highlight of the year. It's a great way to ring in the holidays. It's such a festive event with games and crafts and caroling and cookie decorating and a visit from a very special someone also. We will also collect donations for Project Connect, which collects gifts for unhoused students in the Cincinnati Public School system. And also, we'll accept donations of mittens and gloves and scarves and hats for our mitten tree, which decorate our sanctuary for a while and then are donated to the students at South Avondale Elementary School. And now we have an announcement from Barbara Bonney.
Who misses Heart and Hand auction? Well, our capital fund misses it too. Today we launch our capital fund drive. Please read the bulletin insert and consider donating to the capital fund while you cuddle cows. Please visit the table in the lobby as well. Thank you.
Now let's take a moment to wave to the people watching at home. Hi, everybody. And then let's greet our neighbors or say hello in the chat if you're at home. And when you hear me, well, I was going to ring the singing bowl, but I don't see it here. So when I say, come on back, let's come on back, okay? Okay, folks, let's come on back. And if you could pull out your hymnal. We're in the grayish blue hymnal today. And our first hymn this morning is number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. So please join us if you're willing and able, and let's all sing together.
Questions and answers. Even to question truly is an answer. I'd like to begin with what might be the obvious response to cow cuddling is an answer. What is the question? When I began to plan this service, I was focusing on the article I had just read. Sorry, I'm in between cataract stuff, and I'm trying to figure out about my glasses and whether I can actually read or not. Okay, back to this. I had just read an article about cow cuddling. I considered what that might mean for the service after Thanksgiving and how it might be associated with farms or animals or something similar. Then I looked at possible hymns to sing, and this one by our own Shelley Jackson Denham jumped out at me. She emphasizes the importance of both gathering together and being alone, of giving and receiving, of growing and recognizing both birth and death, and of looking for peace in our lives. What does this have to do with cow cuddling? Well, it does make an interesting title. Cow cuddling is an answer. It also allows us to consider what we need to bring peace to our lives and how our relationships with animals might help with this. Maybe these relationships can further our hopes for the earth and those who are. As Jenny Leading Cloud said, Mita kui oyasin, all my relations. Now, back to the question. Does anyone have suggestions about what the question might be? Any suggestions? Well, I did think of a few. What makes me happy? Cow cuddling is an answer. What makes cows happy? Cow cuddling is an answer. What might we do on a farm? Cow cuddling is an answer. How can farmers make a living? Cow cuddling is an answer. What shall we do for the weekend? Cow cuddling is an answer. Or even, what is the purpose of life? Cow cuddling is an answer. What other answers can you think of for these or any other similar questions? Anybody have suggestions for answers? Well, of course, I came up with some answers. Cows are happy to eat. We might enjoy feeding an animal. Farmers can make a living by growing crops or raising llamas. Let's go to the zoo. What is the purpose of life? We'll have to wait for another discussion. Before we have before we continue with the offering, I have a reading to help us relate to some of the many animals around us. Here is also a calendar. For kids or anyone who would like lots of animal pictures. This reading was listed as a song, and you may see why when you hear it. It's called Dogsology by Laura Kim Joyner. For all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, or barked or howled by everyone, in every tongue.
I now have to go backwards because I skipped a couple of things, and I definitely want to share with you the beautiful reading that June chose by Jenny Leading Cloud of the Lakota tribe. And afterwards, June Schlipf can come and light the chalice. I apologize. So, Jenny Leading Cloud tells us, we Indians think of the earth and the whole universe as a never-ending circle. And in this circle, man is just another animal. The buffalo and the coyote are our brothers. The birds are cousins. Even the tiniest ant, even a louse, even the smallest flower you can find, they are all relatives. We end our prayers with the words, Mitakuye Oasin, all my relations. And that includes everything that grows, crawls, runs, creeps, hops, and flies on this continent. Thank you, John. This month's Share the Plate recipient is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, the UUSC. The UUSC is independent from the Unitarian Universalist Association, but it has enjoyed a close, supportive relationship with the association for many years. This month, we are highlighting 4 different partners that the UUSC is supporting, and this week, we highlight the group Pacific Islands Students Fighting Climate Change.
Bula Vinaka, my name is Vishal Prasad and I'm the campaign director of the Pacific Island Students Fighting Climate Change. I'm speaking to you today from my island home of Fiji. For us, climate justice is more than just a buzzword. It represents the intersection between climate change and social justice. It recognizes that those who are least responsible for causing climate change are often the ones who bear the heaviest burden of its impacts. It acknowledges that vulnerable communities, marginalized groups, and future generations are disproportionately affected by the consequences of a warming planet. For precisely this reason, we decided to seek the help of the world's highest court to deliver an advisory opinion on climate change and human rights and what are state obligations relating to climate change in a bid to ramp up climate action, but more specifically, climate justice. Back in university, we were always told about the perspective that the Pacific is a small, isolated, vulnerable, and essentially insignificant region. Power under this narrative remained in the hands of the powerful countries, but we chose to disrupt this perspective. A campaign to save our futures, our homes, our lives was necessary, and this meant the Pacific charting a path, journeying to the International Court of Justice despite insurmountable odds. What has been even more promising is the agency of the young people in this campaign, who initially brought this idea up to Pacific leaders. When we reached out to our leaders and continued to build momentum behind our campaign, we realized day by day that youth all over the world are tired of the status quo and are calling for a change. This campaign for an ICJ advisory opinion seeks to do the very same. It is an unconventional, out-of-box idea that succeeded in the UN under the leadership of countries that were traditionally labeled as insignificant, and it was backed by the powerhouse of underestimated young people. Power for us has never been on our side, but this is now beginning to change. Our fight for climate justice also includes the very significant focus on intergenerational equity. We must understand that all that we do will have repercussions on our tomorrow. But what we sometimes fail to understand is who those people would be that would have to deal with these repercussions. Intergenerational equity seeks to put this at the heart of dealing with the climate crisis. And so our actions, and by extension the actions of our leaders and governments, matter. We need to realize that each ordinary person carries immense power and potential, and if we are to leave a better world, one that ensures intergenerational equity, we need to wield this power to help address the climate crisis. Our fight and our campaign continues. We are now preparing for the court submissions in the second phase of the campaign. Our focus is on bringing the voices of the marginalized, those most affected by climate change, and of the youth to the ICJ so that these can inform on the advisory opinion that will be released by the court. On this journey, we are very grateful to the UUSC for joining our family of supporters in helping build youth power and capacity as we move ahead in our campaign. Finally, I would like to make a call for everyone to join our voyage for climate justice. This is no longer just about the Pacific or about the ICJ. It is now about the legacy that we want to leave behind and the desire to not leave a world that is destroyed by parasitic injustices that has brought our planet to its knees today. And most assuredly, this is about the power of the people. Thank you, Vinaka, and Dhanyawad.
If you would like to support the UUSC's efforts this month, please place your donation in the collection plate as it passes or on the table by the door as you leave the service. Another way to support the UUSC is by using the Guest at Your Table box that hopefully you took home earlier this month. The box is for collecting loose change throughout the holiday season. When the holidays are over, we ask that you count the money in the box and write a check to the UUSC for that amount.
Oh, God's creatures God raise in the choir, some sing low and some sing higher, some sing out loud on telephone wire, some just clap their hands, applause for anything they got now.
Listen to the bass, it's the one of the bottom where the bullfrog quotes and the hippopotamus moans and groans and do-do-do, and the bullfrog goes and moo.
All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire, and some just clap their hands, applause, or anything they got now.
Just the frogs and the cats, they take up the middle where the honeybee hums and the cricket fiddles and the donkey brays and the pony neighs and the old gray badger sighs.
All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands and applause or anything they got. Listen to the top where the little birds sing, the melodies and the high notes ring. Every cries over everything, the blackbird disagrees. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, applause for anything they got now. Everybody here is a part of the plan. You get to play the great critter band. Into the sky, in the whale, in the sea. It's one great symphony. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I need to find out where I was. Okay, this is part 1. Thank you so much to Larry Bullock, Nick Payne, and June Schlipf with Noriko Matsui on the piano. So, the song tells us that all of God's creatures have a place in the choir. Again, mitakui oyasin, all my relations. How do we find our place in this choir? Maybe cow cuddling is an answer? To talk about our relationships with animals, we might want to define categories of companion animals we share our lives with. Service animals, emotional support animals, therapy animals, and pets. I found a very nice explanation from HABRI in small letters. Human Animal Bond Research Institute. As you may know, the ADA states a service animal means any dog that is individually trained to do work to perform tasks for the benefit of an individual with a disability. The latest update includes miniature horses in a separate listing, but still uses dog as the definition. Emotional support animals provide, quote, emotional support that alleviates one or more symptoms or effects of a person's disability. This is often used under the Fair Housing Act, which requires housing providers to allow these animals to live in their housing, even if other pets are not allowed there. Therapy animals are accompanied by handlers who have trained them to safely interact with members of the public. And they enjoy doing so. Remember our question, what makes cows happy? Pets share our homes and, quote, provide people with love, companionship, and joy, unquote. Okay, what is cow cuddling? I had never heard of this term before this October, although I had happily interacted with cows at my grandfather's farm and my farm-based high school. Cow cuddling involves a cow as a type of therapy animal. And yes, the cow is trained and supervised. I was delighted by the photos of people with various ways of hugging or touching the cows. And better yet, of a person kneeling on the ground with the reclining cow's head on her lap. Maybe it doesn't sound wonderful to you. You may prefer cuddling your dog or rabbit, or even your bearded dragon, or your favorite human. But cow cuddling appeals to enough people that there are a number of businesses in this country and others which specialize in providing this type of therapy. And cows come in many varieties. Here is another picture which caught my fancy. This is actually a yak, which looks extremely cuddly to me. Just ignore the horns. Thank you. What other opportunities do we have to relate to companion animals? Another article, as usual, much of my reading is from the Washington Post, was about pot cakes. This is the term used in the Turks and Caicos Islands in the Caribbean for the stray dogs which roam providenciales, eating caked food from cooking pots left out for them. Pot cakes. They also reproduce enthusiastically. Some spaying and neutering are provided, but not enough to solve the problem. In 2010, Jane Parker Rao founded Pot Cake Place Canine Rescue. A nonprofit organization which now provides puppies for adoption or fostering. Some days they are overwhelmed by tourists who want to take a puppy for a walk on the beach. During specific hours, these walks are welcomed as they help provide social conditioning for the puppies, which is necessary before they can be adopted. And, of course, there are pets. Many of us have pets and already know the joy they can bring. But, of course, some of us like to see research results. In an article called "The Health Benefits of Owning a Pet," the Harvard magazine lists several items, including this: stress resiliency, petting, playing with, or even just maintaining eye contact with pets releases oxytocin in the brain, which in turn lowers stress levels in the body. Interestingly, research with dogs has shown that they also get an oxytocin boost from these interactions. A different view is pointed out by research done by the University of York. Not everyone finds stress lowered by owning a pet. The time, money, and effort needed to care for pets may cause too much stress for some of us. Instead of caring for your own pet, you might want to visit another animal at the zoo, at a friend's house, on a walk around the neighborhood, or try cow cuddling. If you do find the idea of a pet appealing, you may enjoy the slide, which I think was just shown, of our cat. A pet, there she is, a pet who found us and enjoys lap time and beard grooming. For another example of a pet finding a human companion, Meredith's Storytime Studio gives us the grumpy pets.
The grumpy pets. by Christine A. Lombardi. Mom took Billy and Sarah to Perfect Pets one Saturday. Mom worried that Billy always seemed unhappy. She hoped that a special trip would give him a reason to smile. Who couldn't help but smile with so much cuteness everywhere? It seemed everyone was finding their perfect pets, especially Sarah. But Billy was not amused. He began to look around, but every pet was just so happy. Happy, happier, way too happy. Blech, Billy thought to himself. So he walked up and down the aisles. Then he heard a noise. And there, in the back, were the grumpy pets. Row upon row of scruffy, grouchy faces. They were crabby, cranky, and moody. A little like Billy. Billy stared at one of the dogs, and the dog stared back. Billy made a face. So did the dog. Billy took a step closer. The dog did too. And then I'll take him. The volunteer handed Billy the dog. And then Billy held him. They stayed like that for a long time. Everyone had found their perfect pet. Even Billy. Happy, happier, way too happy. I wonder, what would your perfect pet be like?
It might even be a cow. How else do we relate to and grow in understanding and appreciation of other animals? We might call this finding our place in the choir. This invites more questions. Do we understand what our cats are singing? Another article in the Washington Post points out a study about how cats communicate and interact. The title is, Think Cats Are Aloof? They make nearly 300 facial expressions, study says. A psychology professor had been studying chimpanzees, but wanted to add to the relatively small amount of research on cat communication. She and a coworker filmed and studied cat interactions, including eye, ear, lip, nose, tongue, and whisker movements. She now hopes that these revealing findings can be used by cat owners and especially cat shelters to evaluate how well specific cats get along. It might also help us understand what cats are saying to us. Something else I've learned from my reading. A clam makes growth rings in its shell as a tree makes growth rings. Blaine Parker, a marine scientist, found a huge clam on a Florida beach and decided it was too special to be added to his chowder. Instead, after counting the rings he could see without opening it, which would have killed it, and determining it probably was born about the same year as Abraham Lincoln, he showed it to his delighted co-worker, marine science nerds, named it Abraclam Lincoln, and a week later, instead of eating it, released it back into the sea. Thinking about this leads me to another thought. What's a question? Okay, what can we do about our human diets that often include animals? Many of these animals are raised to be eaten, but it has become increasingly clear to me that raising animals for meat and dairy in factory farms is costly for us, for the animals themselves, and for the future of the earth. Small, sustainable farms are a much better system. One thing we can do if we are not ready to be vegetarian or vegan is to take our own small steps to encourage these farms and their earth-friendly benefits. How we spend our food dollars can make a difference. Each year, the Thanksgiving holiday provides us a special time to be thankful for our blessings, and perhaps a reminder that part of that thanks belongs to the animals and even the plants. Mitakui oyasin, all my relations, which provide our needed food. Thank you, wheat. Thank you, corn. Thank you, pig. Thank you, turkey. Turkey. In other parts of the world, people find more ways to honor and thank the animals which have become so important to their lives. This might even include cows. This next slide shows some ways cows continue to be celebrated. The Washington Post published these illustrations with words about the festivals celebrated and the costumes worn. These two cows show decorations by cultures in Costa Rica and South Sudan. And you may well not be able to read them. So the Costa Rica cow picture says, every year farmers in Costa Rica drive their oxen into San Antonio de Escazú, for the ox cart parade. The oxen are colorfully decorated to celebrate the important history of ox cart transportation. The second picture says, In South Sudan, the Ankole Watusi breed of cow is treasured by the Mundari tribe. They wear tassels on their horns that are not only striking, but also fan the flies from their eyes. That does indeed say something about the herder's relationship with their cows. But for most of us, birds are easier to find nearby and become familiar with than cows. We've already heard about wild geese migrating. We've heard some birds singing as part of life's chorus on the telephone wire. In addition, as you are probably aware, research has linked exposure to nature with healing and reducing stress. We may not be able to cuddle most birds, but bird songs are easy to notice, and for many of us, they are quite nearby. One article on bird song suggests that for healing and stress reduction, we make a point of paying attention to what we are experiencing. Being in the moment is helpful for so many things. And maybe listening to birds is also an answer. I invite you also to celebrate Native American Heritage Day, always the day after what we call Thanksgiving. It seems to me that many Native cultures have great insights into multiple aspects of our place in the world. Let us make a point to recognize Mitakuye Oyasin, all my relations, and how we each affect the lives of others and the earth itself. And finally, a portion of a Sioux prayer. Grandfather Spirit, fill us with the light. Give us the strength to understand and the eyes to see. Teach us to walk the soft earth as relatives to all that live. For our closing song, I invite you to waken your voice and find your place in the choir. Now that you have heard the song and maybe even joined in on the chorus, we'll put the words on the screen and sing it all together. Feel free to contribute sound effects and motions as you feel inspired. Dancing is welcome. You might note the words for verse 4, which were apparently added by Peter, Paul, and Mary for their version of the song. These words seem especially appropriate for this morning. Everybody here is a part of the plan. We all get to play in the great creature band, from the eagle in the sky to the whale in the sea. It's one great symphony.
All God's creatures God placed in the choir. Some sing low and some sing high. Some sing out loud in the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, applause, or anything they got now.
Listen to the bass in the one on the bottom where the bullfrog croaks. the hippopotamus runs and jumps with a big doo-doo, and the old cow just says moo.
All God's creatures got a grace in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, applause for anything they got done.
Ducks, cats, they take up the middle where the honeybee hums and the cricket fiddles, where the donkey brays and the pony neighs, the old gray badger sighs.
All God's creatures got a grace in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, applause for anything they got now. Listen to the top where the little birds sing, melodies and the high notes ring. Every crow's of everything. The blackbird disagrees.
All God's creatures
Got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands for pause or anything they got down.
part of the plan. We all
All
get to
right, play in the great critter band,
the eagle in the sky to the whale in the sea.
It's one great symphony. All God's creatures got a grace in the choir. Some sing low, and some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands for pause or anything they got now.
All God's
Creatures got a grace in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands for pause or anything they got now.
If you'd like, or to keep dancing if you'd like. As part of the closing, I invite you to look again at our flowers to remind us that they too are part of Mita Kui Oyasin, all my relations. And then listen to the closing words by Wendell Berry and the accompanying circle of slides. Wendell Berry, the larger circle. We clasp the hands of those that go before us and the hands of those who come after us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms and the larger circle of lovers whose hands are joined in a dance, and the larger circle of all creatures, passing in and out of life, who move also in a dance, to a music so subtle and vast that no ear hears it, except in fragments. Now, please, it's it's time to extinguish the chalice, and Jira will play the postlude. It already out? Okay. Thank you.